Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Be Remote Podcast. I'm your host, Pushpak, and today we have with us Mr. Charlo. Charlo is a full stack maker and founder of Remote Mentors. He is also coach to developers and remote mentors. And he started his nomad journey, he started working remotely in 2016. Welcome to the show, Charlo. How are you?
Thanks, Pushpak. I'm amazing, thank you, and thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thank you so
Yeah,
much. I'm
the
so
weather
glad.
is a bit white and cold in Normandy, but
Mhm.
so it's like it's a nice, very nice day. Thanks.
Yeah, it's a morning over there.
Yeah, it's late morning, something like 11
Awesome, awesome.
11 a.m.
Cool. So let's start with your remote work journey, right? So your initial months of working remotely.
I guess my story. I mean, I've been moving and traveling, but I guess my story of with remote work started before that. So I'm a like developer and designer by trade. I'm like full stack JavaScript developer. That's
Okay.
my trade, and I'm also doing design and copywriting. Obviously, when I'm like working on full stack projects,
Right.
and I started this late 2010, early 2011. And at that time, I've been working in Paris. I had my office in my apartment actually. So it was like a good way to have a larger apartment by putting your office in the apartments.
Right.
And I started working with guys in Berlin, for instance, or in south of France, and we never met. And at the same time, I had clients. I had one big client in the north of France, same, very barely met. And so we started like experimenting with some, in a way, that's home
Yeah.
office and remote work at the same time, figuring out a way around working remotely and collaborating with stuff like Slack and Trello, but like really in the early days. And I was very well versed into remote work, reading books like, of course, like Remote from 37 Signals, but also what's the name? A Year Without Pants, where Scott Berkens takes a journey at Automatic with WordPress for a year. And that's, for me, that was really, really cool. And so I had the freedom. I was on my own freelancing, some kind of like small studio approach to building apps for others.
Right.
And then this was a good opportunity to go to Morocco, for instance, or Canary Islands or Berlin. And so mostly I was using my time to take a few weeks off Paris to go and surf and work instead of taking holidays. So that was my first approach with moving and working.
Right.
And then mid 2016, break up with my ex-girlfriend, and after like a long relationship. And so that was a time for me to put things on the side in France. And this is when I really hit the road or the planes and moved back to Morocco and then Bali.
Right.
And I had the plan to go to Bali and New Zealand and do a bunch of countries, but then I guess I fell in love with
Bali.
Bali, with Canggu, and then 2017 I really decided to spend most of my time in Bali. I've been bouncing here and there. Afterward, I still have the freedom to move, but that's where really I was more of a distant remote worker than a home office guy.
Right. Right. So you chose to go to Bali and you stayed there and started working from over there only, right?
Sorry, going to Bali?
So yeah, you went to Bali and you just traveling around there and you started working from over there only, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
Yes, as I said initially, I was. Yeah, go on, sorry. We
Mhm.
get some latency, I guess, but we're gonna make it work.
Yeah. So, do you think if you're in a tech, like if you're a developer or if you're a designer, so it's easy to work remotely because first there might be some professional, right? Like people who can't really work remotely. But if you're in the tech, if you're a developer, then it's really easy to work remotely. So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I have to agree with this. I guess when you are working in the tech industry, and especially like in design and development, where you have this asynchronous relationship to work, you don't really have to be on site. You don't really have to always bounce ideas around or work at the same time as a team. Sometimes it helps to be together on the same space. Sometimes it helps to share the same time, but you don't have to do this most of the time. And then that probably gives an edge to designers and developers in the tech industry to work remotely. But I don't think and we've seen it like this year, as a lot of the workforce is forced to go remote, or at least home office. That it actually applies, and this is what a lot of people were advocating beforehand, that remote works applies to a lot of intellectual kind of jobs, like the job that don't really necessarily requires your hands, or customer facing things like hotel services, for instance, or cooking, or woodwork.
Totally.
And I think we exposed as well, like we exposed to as it's kind of a caricature, but I would say, like, as designer and developers, you're exposed to pioneering adoption of softwares and ideas and concept and changing paradigms and way of work, like challenging the way you work, probably more easily than a lot of people stuck in bigger organization and different kind of jobs. And so I think this is what I really. And this is what I'm very grateful for in this trade, is like being exposed to these ideas, early adopters of Slack, and then like seeing that Slack is actually probably brings a lot of bigger challenges because it's very noisy, and then moving to Trello, and then from Trello going to Notion, and all these kind of things spreads, and it's adopted by more and more people, not only developers. But I think that when you're exposed to building software, you're also exposed to adopting these things probably faster, at least for some of the developers and designers. And and it's a little bit caricatural, so I don't want to be too boxy in these ideas, but I do agree with the principle.
Totally. So tell us about remote mentors, like what exactly remote mentors is, like what you're trying to do, what problems are you solving with remote mentors?
Well, in a certain way, remote workers comes from the same motive, I guess, that you have running this podcast.
Okay.
I've done a bunch of other experiments like this, where I blend documentary and filmmaking with web techs, and trying to create a new kind of experience to connect people. And the idea I had is like, okay, I'm going to travel, I'm going to leave Paris, I'm going to move to such and such country. Let's go and interview people about remote work and digital nomads, digital nomadism and digital nomad way of life. So my first motivation was to go and meet people and come with my camera and my mic and be like, hey, hi, what do you do for a living? What are the pros and cons of working remotely? What advice do you have for other digital nomads? How is life here in Bali? How is life here in Morocco? How is life here in Poland? And that's what my first motive, to go and meet these people and spread their experience through an app where you can go, and this is what you can do today. If you go to remotementors.com, you got access to the free beta for the moment, and then you will have probably something like 300 videos, and then you get to get some little pieces of experiences from all these people who have been working remotely for years. I mean, it's like startup CEOs, coaches, YouTubers, co-working owners and founders as well. So broad range of people involved in working remotely in different places. And this is what I wanted to do, like giving access to digital nomad and remote work experience through something that you can use on the internet, even if you are stuck at home and you're just contemplating the idea of traveling. How do you get started? What's next? What do you want to pay attention to when you start a remote startup?
Right.
That's what my motivation. And meeting people as well, because when you have a camera and when you have a microphone, you get to connect to so many people. That's very exciting. I think that was my first very deep inner motivation, to have a pretext to go and say, hi, I want to talk to you. And this is how I got to meet like many amazing people in different places. That was really cool.
Awesome. Yeah, this is like totally true, because right now, like, we are at a different country, but like with the help of technology, like we're having this Zoom call. You are in another continent, I'm here in India. So yeah, this is like amazing.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah. So
Amazing times.
yeah. So I wanted to ask you about, like, you are the coach to developers also, right? And remote workers. So like when you I think the coaching of remote workers, you're all doing this with remotementors.com, right? So how do you coach developers? Like are these developers
Yeah,
specifically remote developers, or like you like coach any developers? So how does this work?
yeah. Um, so I guess the coaching approach is complementary to remote mentors, but remote mentors is still it is still an application with information. So you go online and you get knowledge, but it's not the transformation. And what I do with coaching is I try to help people. Well, I do my best, and we have good results. Help people transitioning and having a transformation in their life. And this is what you can do in a one-on-one coaching that you cannot do with with an app or software. And so the way I coach developers is the same way I would coach anyone in a way. Is like, first of all, like listening to what is it that you want to do, where are you at, where do you want to go, and then from there I try to give them access to their resources. And so I would say that my main area of coaching as of today is developers, because this is my experience. That's my expertise. I've been building software for 10 years. And so it's just a natural access to coaching. But I think like broadly, I have like clients from other trades. Like, for instance, I have a consultant in NLP, and she's a woman. So it's not like specifically only developers, but my main trade and most of my clients are developers. And I can leverage on my experience of working remotely and building software and moving like having jobs like CTO or product management, and toying with these ideas really helps in coaching them. Yeah. I think like if I can, I would add something like most of the time, if we have some developers listening to us today, or people working with developers, I would say that usually, I would say most of the time they come to me because they want to make more money. Okay, that's the main motivation. Hey, hi, I'm making so much per day. I want to make so much per year. So how can we make it work? But that's the first very little motivation, and then I'm going to scratch this and see, okay, why do you need this, and how do we do that? Most of the time for developers, the way I work is not always the case, but is identifying what they can leverage in their internal values and what they can leverage on regarding perception of their value. Because you have a lot of developers who are always focused on what language should I use, and what technology should I learn, and what's next. And so many times, especially in junior developers and I would say post-junior developers, not like senior experts with 10 years of experience, but maybe around like 3 years and 4 or 5 years. People who are very talented, they know how to do a lot of stuff, but they are still a bit insecure about the technology, and they would do a little bit of React, a little bit of Angular, a little bit of WordPress, a little bit of Go, a little bit of Python, and forget about the basics. And some of them like know so many languages, but the way they use Git, for instance, or the way they handle project management, it can be improved. So what we're going to do is try to identify what is their dream clients, what is their dream project. And then from then on, try to put more energy into what matters for them, what kind of technology, what kind of skills, what kind of soft skills they need to develop. And at the same time, it's kind of marketing, personal branding. How do you make it clear that you are a very good front-end developer for the health tech or the education industry? Not for everyone, not a little bit of PHP and a little bit of JavaScript and a little bit of backend and a little bit of front-end. Becoming very specific, that's a risk, because we always want to be very broad, like many languages, many different clients. But sometimes, and that's frightening and counterintuitive, but sometimes when you reduce the scope and you become very precise, this is where sometimes the magic happens, because when someone comes to hire you, you say like, yeah, that person is a very, very good fit, and I want to work with that person.
Right.
So that's what like mainly
Yeah.
that's what most of my job revolves around this.
Right. Like suppose so like I'm trying to understand, like suppose there's a developer who knows like who is trying to learn React, Webflow, WordPress, or all these other languages like Java and stuff. But he just knows the basics of it, and there's this another developer, so he knows the basics of all the other stuff, but who is really good in React. So like do you think those developers who have if they're very skilled in a specific language, then that would be make them a more valuable developer instead of the developers who are like into most of the languages, but they're not very highly skilled. So like which one is better basically?
Okay. I think it's pretty tricky to answer this question, because it's kind of abstract, and we don't have the context of what am I looking for. But the way I want to react to this is, people don't hire code. They don't buy code. You don't buy code. You don't buy expertise. You buy solutions. And if you need to, if you need to build a fence, you probably need something like a hammer and some wood. And sometimes you need a junior developer doing React and CSS, basic React and mainly styling and just converting the template. And you want someone like who's going to execute, okay? And at some other time, you want someone like as a lead dev or kind of like more manager. And it is not a problem that this guy is not the best at using hooks in React or being very skilled with this kind of things, because he knows different kind of languages, and he can swap from backend to front end to serverless to a little bit of design and copywriting and strategy. And he's very good at doing code reviews and reviewing the Git workflow. And that person that's not the same set of tools. And for instance, as of today, I'm still coding from sometime, but I would not be the best guy as of today for an execution coding guy. Like if you want me to code for you 8 days per like 5 to, I don't think is very healthy to code 8 hours per day, but let's say you want me to code 5 hours per day, I would probably not be the best guy to do this, because that's not what I'm cultivating anymore. But someone who's cultivating a little bit of everything might be a good fit for something else. So I think, but if you take junior developers, because I think this is where the barrier to entry as being is way higher than it used to be. When like 10 years ago, you say, hi, I'm building software, I'm building website. You got like 5 clients coming to you, take my money and please build my software. Today, it's not true anymore. I'm not sure about every areas in the world, but in France at least, and I think I can say in a Western country, there is no longer a kind of monopoly, because the competition is broader. Eastern Europe, India, for instance, are coming very, very hard. That's big competition in terms of, because the economics, it's difficult to make it work, and then it makes it hard for junior developer to enter the market, because we have more and more junior developer coming in the market with short training, like online training, online school, few like 6 months of coding. And I think it's good, but it's not sufficient. And the difficult thing for junior to entry is to find something that you can go to a company and say, I can solve this problem for you. And if it means that you are the best at making buttons in CSS, that probably better than being an entry-level React developer that doesn't convert into execution. Because again, people don't hire React or PHP or Go. They hire solutions.
Understood. Yeah. So I noticed at remote mentors you talk a lot about atomic learning, right? So could you explain to us what exactly is atomic learning, right? Like why do you talk about it a lot?
Yeah. I'm going to try to explain it. It's still fresh on my mind, but the idea is so atomic learning. What it comes from this idea that okay, let's try to put things. I will try to put things into context. If you take remote work, for instance, there is not one place where you go and you say, "Hi, hello, I'm Charlo, and I want to learn remote work." You need to get knowledge from many different sources, many different people. So the idea is the knowledge that I want to have is scattered. It's scattered in the world, it's scattered into different people. And at the same time, this knowledge is very specific because the knowledge you need when you want to be let's say you are 30 years old, male, a developer, and you want to travel the world and code, the knowledge you need in terms of remote work is not the same as if you are a 35 years old woman who is a CEO with a baby. And it's not the same as the knowledge that you need if you are a 24 years old girl out of school and with a bachelor degree, maybe, or a master, and you want to be a VA and or an online business manager. All this knowledge is very specific to people and it's spread. So what I want to do with atomic videos is when you want to learn something today, what do? You listen to a podcast, you read a book, you watch YouTube videos. Okay, there are other sources, but let's say, like, for the sake of the example, that's the main sources of knowledge.
Course,
When you do this, you need to spend 20 minutes for a podcast or 45 minutes for a podcast, 20 minutes for YouTube videos, and a few hours, like 4 to 8 hours to read a book. And not all of the knowledge, instead the podcast, the YouTube, and the book are relevant to your case right now. What you can do with atomic learning and atomic videos is what I'm doing is I'm splitting the knowledge into what an atom, which is something you cannot reduce. That there is nothing smaller than an atom. Of course, you can go like lower and lower and lower, but the smallest piece of matter is an atom. Let's, for the sake of this experiment, and the smallest piece of knowledge here is an atomic piece of knowledge. So you end up with 30 seconds, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, and that's your job to connect the dots. And what I want to do is with remote mentors is, and people need to try it to understand what I'm talking about, but because it's very abstract to talk about it, you need to experiment. But what I want to do is make people the hero of their learning journey. And so you get access to all this knowledge, and then you have an organic experience with learning. You get 30 seconds from that guy here, 5 minutes from this girl there, in different country, different trades. I still need to work on my definition, so hopefully it's clear. And again, like go and try it for yourself to see what I mean. Maybe it might be helpful.
Sure. Yeah. So like, as you talked about, like people from different age have different problems, like or like for them remote work is different, for some people remote work is different, right? So like I wanted to ask, like, what kind of challenges did you face while working remotely, since you started working remotely? And as you work with a lot of remote workers, so what kind of challenges did they face? So are these challenges same, like do most of the people challenges like face similar kind of problems, or someone has different kind of problems with remote work? So could you
I'm going to try to I've been facing a broad range of issues. Of course, you have the basic one. Where do I find Wi-Fi when I'm on like a remote island in Indonesia, like not even Bali, like smaller island, things like this. But I just moved the mic. Hopefully it's fine. But I think this is very, you can have a pragmatic approach, like find some internet. If you have some call, make sure you have some internet. That's basic 101 things. I think the bigger challenges are, it used to be in the beginning when I was freelancing, is like my clients. At the same time being like very, wow, you're in Bali, you're in Morocco, you're in like there and then, such and such place. And if you really own what you're doing, it's like, hey, hi, I'm working remotely, and I'm working for you from Bali, and you really own it, then people are probably receive it better. Because if you don't stress about it, your client will stress less about it. So now today it's really mainstream, so it might not be so relevant, but like 3, 4, 5 years ago, it still was sometimes a little bit tricky. They knew they didn't have a choice because they wanted to work with me, and I was there, and this is the way it works. But sometimes you can have like a little bit of stress. So it's you don't want any stress with your clients. You hear. So I was talking about what you sell to your clients, saying like you don't sell expertise, you sell solutions. But at the same time, when you build software, you don't sell software. You sell an experience. You sell an experience of working with you. And that's very important because I'm talking about freelancing and running an agency. I will talk a little bit more about like startup setups and things like this afterward. But when you run an agency, studio, freelancing, you don't sell an app, you don't sell a website, a landing page, or whatever. You sell an experience because people are going to trust you with their money and be like, hey, hi, this is my money, I'd earn money, I want to invest it, and I want you to work with me. Please help me solving my problem. That's an experience of life. And so you want to remove stress. So if you really own that and be like, don't worry, I've got everything, everything is working fine. I've got network, I'm available for you, or I'm not available, but when I'm not, you know about it. No surprise, I think it's fine. And if it's not, then find other clients.
Right.
Find clients that want to work with you and are in tune with your values. The biggest challenges I had though was I've been a product manager for a startup, and we were 24, fully remote. Like maybe a little bit, a part of the team was actually in France, in Normandy, because we had some printing stuff. But fully remote team, and I was product manager, 8 engineers, plus like the founders team. And the challenge then was to give some reason, because you have to ship software every week or every 2 weeks, depending on the sprints. And I was in Indonesia, and one of the developers was in Canada, and we could make it work. But how do you bring some rhythm into building a product that really go fast, because you want to build things fast and have feedback from users and have engineers delivering things quickly without getting insane? And I think the biggest challenge for me then as a product manager, where you have to deal with iOS app, iPhone app, web app, and other subjects. And how do you do when you want to go to bed because it's 10 p.m. and you want to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. And when you go to bed at 10 p.m., it's only 3 p.m. in the afternoon or 4 p.m. in the afternoon for your team, and they are on fire. And you find yourself, even if you want to have a healthy approach to balance and everything and be asynchronous, you find yourself on Slack at 11 p.m. in your bed 3 days out of 5. And that's not sustainable unless you wake up at 10 a.m. But when you want to wake up at 6 a.m. to be an early bird and go surfing and write your journal and everything, then you end up sleeping 5 hours, and it's stressful to go to bed just after doing product management on Slack, on fire. And that was tricky.
Right. I think the challenge which you said right now, which you explained. So basically, if there are remote workers, and if someone is in Canada or someone is in Indonesia, and the timing zones are really different, and that's one of the biggest challenge that people face, right?
I don't know if it's the biggest challenge that people face, but I think that's a heavy that's a heavy challenge. At the same time, I think it's an opportunity, because you can't win on both sides. You can't have everything, right? So are you ready to work with this challenge and work on asynchronous project management and make your team work across time zones? or do you want to have the comfort of having everyone on 2 or 3 hours difference maximum, and then just limiting the perspective of letting your people traveling or hiring in different countries?
Right.
That's a trade-off. That's just a trade-off. Yeah, maybe I don't know. I don't think there's not one size fits all answer. In the So what I've said it was not comfortable for me, but at the same time we had like good results of what we've been shipping during these months of collaboration.
Okay.
For one, and secondly, you can always improve on things. Okay, so you can always decide that there is a time for everything, and it's also on me, my responsibility to actually switch off and be like, hey guys, I'm available from that time to that time, and I just going to dismiss notification. And if it's too much, then move on and do something else.
Of course,
because
totally.
I mean, it can happen as well, like, do you a trade-off again, like, do you want to work with that? Do you want to go to bed at 11 p.m. after Slack notification everywhere, or do you want to be done at 5 p.m. and have only 2 meetings per week, which is possible? Is it possible with that team? If it's not, move on or try. I don't know. Like, it's like
it depends on the situation and
constant adaptation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Totally.
I think it's a constant adaptation and just understanding what's at stake. What happens when you work late and you don't sleep enough? What happens when you are constantly reacting to notification instead of being in the flow for a few hours in the row of deep work? What happens when you are in the flow of few hours of deep work and you're not available to react to notification and people want your input? I think it's cultivating the understanding of all these aspects of collaboration and work, and then constantly adjusting and understanding what's at stake. But because what I think is that a lot of people don't know what's at stake. We don't know what's at stake when you are constantly reacting to notification. We don't know what's at stake when you are spending too much time in meetings or on Zoom. We don't know what's the potential of accomplishment when you set up big blocks of time without interruption and you get in the flow and you just do deep work. I think that we exposed to this because we are working on these issues of remote collaboration or development, coaching and things like this. But I think developing this understanding of that and just composing, because it's never perfect, but when you ignore what's at stake, you cannot make it work. And
so what's the one thing which you are curious about remote work, and where do you see the future of work?
That's a tricky question because there's so many things going on, and at the same time, I mean, these things have been changing so much this year. I have to choose one. And I'm going to today, as I've said, I'm in Normandy. So if you don't know where Normandy is, guys, looking on Google Map, and Normandy is a country. It's a countryside area of France, on the west of France, right in front of England. It's full of lush, it's very green. A lot of green grass. That's why we have cows and we make good cheese, and that's an amazing area. So I'm here these days, and this is where I'm from. And I'm 15 minutes away from my sister, 15 minutes away from my bro, 15 minutes away from my father, and my grandparents and my mother are less than 1 hour away from me. And where am I going with this? Well, I'm going with this is that the ability of people with remote work these days and massive adoption is to go back to live in the countryside, for instance. Yeah. And in France, that's a subject, like people moving away from Paris. I don't have to explain why probably Paris is not the best place to be at the moment, when you have a very high rent and all the restaurants are closed and gym are closed. probably you want to be living in a wider house on the countryside when you can take a walk and just breathe fresh air. And my brother is working on an initiative, a local initiative, to help people setting up businesses and being fulfilled in living in the countryside again. And there is a lot of dynamics coming here with film. So he's a filmmaker, but there are also other people moving from big cities and living in the countryside or smaller towns these days. And I'm very excited with this because I think this brings a lot of energy to places where a lot of young people have been living. So that's only one thing, but I have to choose one. That's something I'm very excited with at the moment.
Yeah, like like cities are becoming a ghost town right now. Like all the people from the cities, like they're moving back to their hometown. Like it's been almost a year. Like I'm at my hometown, so I've been doing all my work from here only. Like this is a small city. I never thought I could work from here, but yeah, times change, things happens.
That's exciting. Yeah. And then you can spend qualitative time with people who matter, like going visit friends, being with family. And that's a big shift. I mean, it's very early stage, but we're not going to go back to what it used to be. So the impact of this switch in terms of remote work adoption, people want to go back to work. So some of people are fed up with Zoom meetings. Only 30% of the workforce who can work remotely in France actually work remotely. And but I think it creates adoption and tolerance for even if we go back to the office afterward. Well, I'm not going to go back to the office. I don't think so. But I have never been in an office for 10 years, I think, so that's why. But I think that a lot of people are going to allow their staff, their employees, and their team to go and live elsewhere.
Right.
Something else I'm excited about is I think, I mean, this is something to watch. It's a little bit, it probably less for mainstream, but there is this amazing guy, Olumide, living in Canggu, who is running an initiative these days to create a digital nomad visa for Indonesia. And we are seeing as well other initiatives to create digital nomad visas. And so this also is the sign that countries want to welcome digital nomad and remote workers, because we are a source of revenue like tourism is. It's not as important as tourism, but it's non-negligible. So I think countries want to attract this kind of workers, and we are going to see more and more initiatives like this in the coming future, in the near future.
Yeah, totally. Like I think COVID, like because of pandemic, like people like there wasn't any nomad activity happening. Like nomads are basically traveling from like one place to another, but like people were stuck wherever they are. But I think this after pandemic, I think there will be a huge push to working like as a digital nomad. Basically, like in India, I have observed that a lot of people which were staying in cities, they are going to places like Goa, where there's this beach, and they're just having a beer and working from over there. Otherwise, they are going to Himalayas in the mountains, and they're working from over there and just waking up. So these things are happening in India. So yeah, this is like totally gonna happen, I guess. Yeah. So what are you really into outside of work? What do you do like when you're not working?
Okay. Like I guess like I think if I have two things, like I'm trying to stay in shape. So that's it's not really a hobby, but I think it's important to move around, and especially when you work from home and you don't have to walk so much. I think bringing in exercise into your daily routine is important. So
actually,
last year, for instance, I was in Ukraine. gym were closed in France, but I had the opportunity to work with a personal trainer in Ukraine. So that's something I allow myself to do. That was my main expense, I would say, like in terms of energy, because like, everything was closed, but gym. So I met this amazing guy named George, and he's been coaching me for 6 to 8 months. And we went from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. And that was really a good experience for me to do fitness and weightlifting. So learning all the basics in the gym and about the body and how to lift weight properly. And that was very exciting. Now that I'm in Normandy, I'm in the countryside. So I'm working on my kettlebell. So that's, I don't know, you know what kettlebell is? That's a bell shaped weight. And it's very lightweight gym. So with only 1 or 2 weights, you can work your full body. And I'm back into running as well. I just bought a new pair of running shoes so that I can go and do some trails around. There are beautiful areas, and that's, so that's something I'm trying to do. But it's still serious. I consider it work. It's not like I don't do it. I mean, it's good for me, but it's not always funny to move and to do exercise. And I love playing guitar.
That's awesome.
Playing music, writing song. I've been producing a little bit of electronic before that. And I'm very excited about this thing. I love cooking. And and bouncing ideas with friends as well. And things like this.
Like I think, like if you're a remote worker, then like exercise should be like an important thing. It should be a necessary thing, like a company policy that you should really exercise. That's how you feel good. Like it is like really important.
Actually, I can share something. Give me a sec. I think something I've discovered and I really like it. If I can share this, if it's helpful, I would say that if one of the best investment I made is when I discovered that I have a bunch of equipment that I can travel with. So I have a jumping rope. I have a foam roller to do some massage of the back and the lats and the legs and everything. And something I think I really recommend people to buy is resistance band. Like this.
How does it
with
work?
So with this you can stretch, because it's not really exercise. I mean, you're not building muscle or doing cardio, but with this you can really stretch your pecs and your back. And what happened is that a lot of time when in a computer we're hunching like this, so creates a lot of stress on these parts and on the back, and the back is connected with the chest. But with this you can really stretch, and this takes only a few seconds, a few minutes to do things like this. And I think it's not the first. I think I shared that in the conference as well about like remote work, and that's probably, it costs $5 to $10. I don't know how much it costs. It's affordable, really worth the investment. I've had this for more than a year, maybe 2 years, and move around, take a break, do this, stretch, and I think your back is going to be very grateful to you to do this
We'll put
exercise.
down a link to like so people can find out like where can they buy this in a podcast.
Probably. Resistance band.
Resistance bands. Cool. So like I have two last 3 questions for you, short questions. So what's your favorite book?
Okay, well, I had pick one. Okay, so I have to. I've been working on this question because I knew. You knew it could come, and you knew I knew it could come. So
if you have more than one, that also works, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
so I've been reading a lot of non-fiction book, of course, like by trade, when you like development, coaching, remote work, personal development, things like this. But I'm going to come up with 3 books which are autobiographics. So Barbarian Days. Barbarian Days is a book about surfing, in the early days of surfing, and I think it's Finnegan, the author. Michael Finnegan. Finnegan. So Barbarian Days. It's autobiographic book around surfing, and it takes you to different places. And I think what comes at the end is that life is not only about surfing. And for me, it was a revelation that I was in Bali for surfing, but my life was not only about surfing, and surfing was a big part of my life, but it's not everything. This book is full of wisdom. It's a really interesting journey. And two other autobiographic books that I've been enjoying this year. One is Total Recall by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And that's really interesting to rewind the life of this, I would say, giant, because you can agree or disagree politically speaking. I don't think it's really relevant in terms of what he has to say. And I'm probably not always aligned with his political views, but so many things in this book are very inspiring. And he's like larger than life kind of guy, coming from Austria, poor family, and finding his way up to the top with ups and downs. And he shares also some vulnerabilities as well. So that's pretty interesting. And another autobiographic books that I read recently, and it was discovering for me, like I read these two autobiographic books this year. I think it was a good way to stop feeding myself with only non-fiction books, and I'm not so much into reading novels these days. I love novels sometimes, but not these days. And the last one is Green Lights from Matthew McConaughey. Again, like very interesting journey, and talks about travels, talks about very exciting experience. Not going to talk about it, but those three autobiographic books, I cannot pronounce this word. It's catastrophic.
Awesome. I never actually, I never heard about this book, but I'll surely check this out. Like, sounds really interesting.
Cool. Yeah. Glad it can help.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So what are your top 3 favorite remote tools?
Tools. Okay. So my favorite tools, and it's my favorite tools of all, it's called Loom. Loom. Yeah. And I was hacking my way before that to making videos. So when you do design and development, and I use it as well for coaching. I used to shoot videos of my screen with voiceover and put this video on Dropbox and share this video. Instead of writing an email, which would take like 30 minutes, in 10 minutes, I can deliver more quality, more value through video. So I would just film my screen and be like, this is wrong, this is right. I mean, this is very caricatural, but like, change this, do this, do that, or maybe think about this, or this is what I think about that. That's a very, very helpful tool, especially when you want to cultivate asynchronous collaboration, because I don't have to go on a meeting with you and spend 1 hour bouncing ideas. You can send something to me and I'll be like, okay, Pushpak, this is okay, interesting, but maybe consider this and this and that. Shoot my video, send it to you, and you send me a feedback, and we have this asynchronous collaboration.
Right.
I use it in my coaching as well. When people send me their portfolio or their LinkedIn profile or their Upwork profiles, things like this. So that's my top, like probably top 1, top 2, and top 3. But as well as these other tools, Calendly is really helpful to me to set up bookings in different time zones very easily. And I think Notion is worth mentioning.
Yeah.
I've been using a broad range of tools over the years, including, as I've said, like Slack, Trello, and other things. People always are confused and use Slack to do project management, but it's not a project management tool. I love Trello. I really do love Trello, and it's hard for me to do without Trello. I'm always coming back to Trello but for so many other things. Notion is very powerful, and you can do also Kanban project management on Notion. It's not as powerful, so I'm using Notion for everything and Trello for quick, like efficient project management, because I find the experience
Right.
really amazing, and no one's beat Trello for that. So I mean, in my experience.
Cool. Yeah. So thank you so much, Charlo. I think you have given us a lot of insight today, from starting with remote work and coaching for remote workers to developers, and like doing fitness, like how important fitness is to remote work, and this like 3 amazing new books which I never heard of, like but like really sounds really interesting. So yeah, it was really amazing talking to you.
It was a pleasure, Pushback. Thanks for the invite. It was really cool being on this podcast with you, and well, I'm very glad if it helps. Really glad, and maybe if you want to, again, like, it's not self promotion, it's for free. Remote Mentors is not for sale at the moment, so if you want to go and check out the beta, it's for free. Go to remotementors.com.
Yeah, I'll
That's
like
my little promo.
yeah.
Again, no money involved, but I'll be very excited. Like, if you can help, like, people who want to get started, that's one. And if you want to check it out and give me some feedback, that
Yeah,
would be
they
amazing
can
as
check
well.
out, like, yeah, you guys
Yeah,
can check out it on the link only, so down in the podcast. Yeah, so bye guys.
cool. Amazing. Ciao. Take care. Bye.